We will call to order the Lee Summit Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Could I get a roll call, please?
Mark Hitchens.
Present.
Cinda Rader.
Present.
Jake Lovelace. Dana Arth. Donnie Funk.
Present.
Terry Trafton.
Present.
Tanya Jonah-Ford.
Present.
Randy Benbrook.
Present.
Chip Tuzinski.
Present.
Thank you. I know no changes to our updated agenda, so I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda as published.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Could I get a vote on approval of the agenda, please?
Mark Hitchens.
Yes.
Cinda Rader.
Yes.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonah-Ford.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes.
Thank you, and our agenda has been approved. We are at the point for public comments for anything relating to the Planning Commission outside of any of our applications tonight. I see none, so we will move on to the approval of our consent agenda, which contains one item, item A, approval of the March 23rd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Could I get a vote, please?
You want an approval first, right?
Or, excuse me, can I get approval of the consent agenda, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Can I get a vote for approval of the consent agenda?
Mark Hitchens.
Yes.
Cinda Rader.
Yes.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonah-Ford.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes.
And the consent agenda has been approved. So we will move on to our first public hearing, and we will open up continued application PL 2022-394, rezoning from PMIX to PI and preliminary development plan Summit 470 Logistics Center, 1451 Northwest Main Street, Ryan Companies US Inc. applicant. Anyone wishing to provide testimony or speak on behalf of this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time. Thank you. The applicant has a presentation. Please come forward. Mr. David Bushak is going to start.
Yes, actually, I'm going to start tonight. David Bushak, Chief Counsel of Economic Development and Planning. And what I'm going to do is walk through a history of what we've done over the last several weeks after the two continuances. So I'm going to walk through things chronologically, starting with the issue that the commission raised 2 meetings back at the March 9th meeting. And I'll start by saying this. We've discussed the issue that you raised thoroughly. We've had internal meetings, we've had meetings with the developer, we've had more internal meetings, we've had more discussions with the developer. So I can say with a high degree of confidence that we've flushed out these issues as thoroughly as we possibly can. Both the issue that you raised at the March 9th meeting and then the reasons for the requested continuance at the March 23rd meeting. So I'm going to walk through 3 conditions. These are conditions that are in the ordinance that's in front of you. One of the conditions is new to address the concern that the commission raised 2 meetings back. And then 2 of the conditions I'll talk about are changes to those conditions as requested by the applicant, which was the cause of the last continuance at the last meeting. So I'll walk through this in chronological order and explain what we've done with the issues that you've raised. So to begin with, the issue that the commission raised at the March 9th meeting was what we might call the heavy traffic generator issue, which is essentially, I'll go ahead and read the sentence from the staff memo that's included in your packet, which is an excellent summary of what we thought we heard from you at the March 9th meeting. The Planning Commission asked what recourse, if any, the city may have after approval of a preliminary development plan to require a future tenant to construct road improvements if the impact of said future user are significantly greater than the assumptions used by staff in the preparation of the city's traffic impact analysis. That was our takeaway of your primary concern from the March 9th meeting. So based on our internal discussions, we we discussed all options. We essentially came up with two primary responses, two potential responses to this. One would be to conduct a traffic study of that scenario. And that's an issue that we raised with the developer. The developer didn't take up, it wasn't a request from staff, it was just a comment that that's one way we could deal with it. A new traffic study has not been conducted. But one thing that I'll mention, just to kind of put a pin in this point, and we can come back to it if you'd like, there's three ways that a traffic study could be requested of the applicant. One is staff requests it, and we already have the standard that's applied to that, which is if there's more than 100 PM peak hour trips, that's what triggers a traffic study that staff requests of the applicant. Second way, you could request it, which is rare. Third way, the city council could request it. That's also rare, maybe even more rare. So I'm mentioning that because part of my role for you is to make sure you understand all of the options that you have available to analyze the issues that are in front of you. So one option on this issue is if, at the end of this discussion, if you're still not satisfied with the result, you could pause again and you could require a traffic study of that scenario. That's an option. I'm not advocating that, I'm just advising you what your options are. Then the second point, and this is what we believe is a solution to the issue, is this new condition number 6 that you see on the screen. So this has been added since the last meeting, since the March 9th meeting. It reads, a change in the traffic circulation patterns or a change in the trip generation that will negatively affect on-site or off-site traffic shall be treated as a substantial change to the preliminary development plan as set forth in section 2.330 of the UDO. So one thing that is important for you to understand is that with the exception of, I'm not sure I can highlight it here, with the exception of this phrase, or a change in the trip generation, the remainder of this language is directly from section 2.330 of the UDO. The way this works is, under the UDO, there's a list of 14 different items that are defined as a substantial change between the PDP and the FDP, the final development plan, that would trigger a new public hearing and come back and put the PDP back in front of you. There's 14 items. One of those items, number 11, is essentially this condition, but it doesn't include the language that I'm pointing to here, or a change in the trip generation. So we thought sometimes the best solution is the simplest solution. So we took that condition, that part of the definition that's already in the UDO that would trigger a new PDP hearing in front of you and then again at the city council, and we added this phrase, or a change in the trip generation, to address what we perceived as your concern, which is what if it's not just a low traffic generator warehouse use, what if it's a high traffic generator? This is a potential way to deal with the issue. So we thought this is probably the best solution, the simplest solution. It fits within the context of the UDO, and we think it addresses your issue. So that's new condition number 6 to address that issue from 2 meetings back. The next item then, condition number 4, the continuance at the March 23rd meeting was a request by the developer to revisit and revise conditions number 4 and 5. And so I won't focus on the prior wording, I'll just focus on the new wording here. Any direct access to Northwest Main Street shall require compliance with the city's unimproved road policy, which is in effect at the time of the submittal. Staff is satisfied with that condition, and the applicant is satisfied with the language of that condition. The main difference between the prior wording and the current wording is that the prior wording spells out in more detail essentially what the unimproved road policy is today. And this new condition, the one difference is if, by chance, the unimproved road policy is changed between now and at the time that connection is made, this condition arguably accommodates that issue better. But it's arguably the same condition, essentially. So we don't think that's really changed that much. It still works for city staff, and the applicant is agreeable to that. And then condition number 5, this deals with access from Lot 2 through Lot 1 to basically get out of the area. And so the new wording is the second one. Lot 1 shall provide Lot 2 with an access easement providing permanent and unrestricted vehicular access to Northwest Victoria Drive or Northwest Main Street. This access shall adhere to all applicable city code requirements, including but not limited to the minimum curb cut separation requirements of the Access Management Code and shall be recorded prior to recording of the final plat for lots 1 and 2. So to give you a visual, this diagram, this is page 1 of the PDP. This is the simplest diagram I could find to illustrate what we're talking about. Lot 2 is essentially landlocked. The only access points are over here, if this ever becomes full access, or over here, down this new road to Victoria. And so the condition that I just read basically says, at the beginning, Lot 1 will provide an access easement to Lot 2 to exit over here. And if this ever becomes full access, if this ever becomes a full access point, then the recorded access easement will automatically change to allow Lot 2 access through Lot 1 over here. And one of the important points that I wanted to show you, and that's why I picked this diagram, is Lot 2 is landlocked, and technically Lot 1 flanks Lot 2. And so however it works out, Lot 2 has to get out over here, over here. Applicants agreeable to this, and what will happen is they will record in the land records an access easement that provides access for Lot 2 over here before the final plat is recorded. And then that document will say that if this ever becomes full access, the access easement will revert over to here and they'll be able to get out here. That's essentially what this revised condition number 5 says. So in summary, we have new condition number 6 to address the concern from 2 meetings back. We have the revised conditions to address the applicant's concern, and city staff and the applicant are in agreement with all of the language of these conditions. So I'll stop there and be happy to answer questions, or more likely other staff will be able to answer your questions.
Thank you, David. Is the applicant, do they have any presentation tonight? Commissioner Kitchens, do you have any questions for staff on this?
Not really. I think that the staff went through it pretty well. I think that there were some general agreements looking over the new wording that came across. Would have liked to have seen it a little sooner to be able to browse through it, but I imagine that was part of the presentation that had to come out tonight. No questions at this time, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you.
So,
Commissioner Rader?
No questions.
Sorry, one thing over here now. One thing I'll mention is the language that I just walked through is in the ordinance that's in the meeting packet.
Okay, yeah, it was in there. You didn't see it? Okay. Commissioner Rader, did you have something? Commissioner Lovelace?
Yeah, a question for staff. I believe it was condition number 3, David. Maybe we run back up here so everybody can look at it if it's possible, as far as what's on the main screen here, and make sure I'm asking you the right question, David.
Did you say it's one of these 3 here?
Yeah, I believe it was condition number 3.
Well, it's either 4, 5, or 6.
Okay, then.
Up the top?
Okay, so 6. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yep.
Yeah, thank you. So, when and how is it determined that a change in traffic circulation patterns or trip generation exists? What triggers that? And then how is that defined?
So I think the first question has a 2-part answer, which I'll summarize, and I may need help on part of it, and then I can answer the second question too. So the answer to your first question, when is it triggered? It would be at final development plan, or it could be when when a new tenant is seeking a business license and they have to pay a new excise tax. And they'll have to pay the excise tax to receive the business license, and that could trigger a change in the trip generation. So it's those 2 points in time.
And so they have to, at any new business application, trip generation is outlined with each individual business application.
Correct. So there's a process that city staff uses to evaluate the trip generation by user to calculate the excise tax. That's the simple summary. If you need more detail, we'll turn to some other people here.
Nope.
And then the answer to your second question, who determines change in trip generation? The answer to that question is the same as interpreting any of the language in the UDO, which is it's the Director of Development Services that ultimately makes that determination. So it would be Director of Development Services.
Perfect, okay.
And if the applicant is not happy with that determination, they can always appeal that determination. So there's a process to address that issue.
No, that sounds great. Okay, and so then on number 4, and this is just as a refresher for me, so when you say any direct access to Northwest Main Street, the reason why that's, I mean, there's a road that exists to Northwest Main Street, right? But that road is limited access to fire only, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's it. And then I guess I really feel, like comments are later, but just I guess as an information piece, why did staff not dictate to the applicant that a traffic study should exist for the, you know, the range of uses that could potentially exist here, so we kind of understood how to, every one of those should be treated?
Yeah, we'll have our traffic engineer address that one.
Thank you.
Susan Berry, City Traffic Engineer. So everything that the developer brought forward was warehouse. We have no reason, you know, to question that. Sure, it has loading docks all along the backside, you know, but they have stated it's warehouse. They've, you know, done a traffic memo based on the fact that it's warehouse. It's in their best interest to tell us up front whether or not they plan to use it as a distribution center, because if down the road they go to get a tenant finish and they come in with the distribution center, then they have to go back through the PDP process, which slows them down by at least 3 months. So we're confident that everything that they've said is warehouse, and we don't really have any reason to question that they're going to find tenants otherwise. And I feel like we have a good plan for identifying that later in the process.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Trafton. Commissioner Jana Ford.
No questions. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Benbrook.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one question for staff, probably David. Condition 5, just some clarification. One of the discussions we had last time was the improvement to Northwest Main from the, I guess, emergency easement all the way to, what was it, Colburn? That came up part of the discussion. So we're saying that because lot, I think 2, the smaller lot, now has access to the other road through lot 1, that is no longer needed as an access point. Now it's going to be fire emergency only. Is that correct?
I think the answer to that question is probably the lot owners will determine that in the future, I think is the answer. So this condition allows for access from lot 2 through lot 1. And if either of those 2 lots wants to, I think the simplest way to say it is pay for the changes to open the access to Main Street, which includes improving Main Street all the way to Colburn, if they make the business decision to do that, that's the point in time that would happen.
Okay. So who would be responsible? Both lots? Because at one point it was all placed on lot 2 by the condition. So who's I guess, condition, who would that fall under? Would it be a mutual agreement?
I think the answer at that point is also a business decision. It would be up to the agreement between lot 1 and lot 2. And so if one of, like, for example, I think the answer is if one of those parties wanted that access, they would pay for it. If both of the parties jointly wanted that access, they would come up with some sort of payment arrangement to make it happen.
Okay. So it's either they take on the full, lot 1 or lot 2 would either take on the full financial responsibility, or they would go in together, and it would be up to them to determine which.
Correct.
But if lot 1, let's say lot 2 had a small delivery service, they wanted that access, and the other lot didn't want to, they would just have to eat the cost?
They'd have to, I think the answer is they'd have to sort it out between themselves. One of those 2 parties would have to make that happen.
But no toll roads, right?
No.
Okay, that's all I had. Thanks, Chair. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Commissioner Tuzinski, go ahead.
So, question for David. So David, just building on what Commissioner Brembrook said, and just to clarify in my mind, because of how the wording is now, that lot 2 is not landlocked, they will not be solely responsible to have access out of their parcel, because now they have a cross-access easement. And before, when this was not part of the deal, their only access would have been through Main Street, which would have caused all the improvements to be done by them if they wanted their own access. correct?
The first part of your question, I can say correct. I'm not sure I followed the second part, to be honest.
The way that the plats were brought to us last time, was there already a cross-access agreement between the two so that Lot 2 was not landlocked? And I think, therefore, when Lot 2 came into, they were responsible to redo all of Main Street because that would have been their only access point.
I think I'd have to guess at what the Lot 1 owner was thinking at the time, 2 planning commission meetings back, but I can say this, based on our discussions since then, the Lot 1 applicant is agreeable to the language in Lot 5, and we're in agreement on this point too. The way they intend to comply with that is to record an access easement through Lot 1 out to Victoria, which then terminates if full access is granted by the city and built, et cetera, over on Main Street, and then the access easement would revert from the longer way to the shorter way.
And that was, again, my only concern, was the initial person was not have to pay or have any kind of involvement with Lot 2's opportunity to have access, and then having to bear that whole cost of improving Main Street. And I think this really, in my mind, clarifies it to allow Lot 2 to have access and not have to be fully taking on that burden, and it allows it to. So that's the first part. Second part, what is the status, if that's even a question we could ask, of the finance, the potential or the applicant wanting to get funds for this through the city on this parcel?
The applicant has indicated they're going to pursue an incentive request, and the incentive request is to essentially reimburse them for the road improvement costs. They are the plan is to be making a conceptual presentation to the city council on May 16th, at the same time that the night the zoning hearing will happen if you advance this tonight. So they are seeking an incentive request in connection with the development of this property.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, David, a question. So the fire easement access is not on Lot 2. Lot 2 has nothing to do with the fire easement access. Is it coming up that piece of Lot 1?
I'm probably going to need help with this, but I think the answer is no. I think the access is just at that tip of Lot 1, which functions as a road. Is that?
Or if I may,
Yeah.
John Erpelding with Olson. That is correct. The fire access easement is completely it's in Lot 1. It's in that long linear piece of Lot 1 connecting to Main Street. One key point here that I think is important for you to consider, since the last planning commission meeting, we actually, the developer Ryan Companies has had a lot of discussions with the current owner of future Lot 2. And one of the things that we've now included in the plan, the current plan, which is not shown in your packet, but it has been submitted to the city, improvements to Main Street adjacent to lots 1 and 2 are back in the plan. Those were some of the negotiations that Ryan Companies and the Lot 2 owner had to make sure that they're comfortable with, the Lot 2 owner is comfortable with this plan moving forward. So some of those improvements will be made by Ryan Companies.
Is there any particular reason why that wasn't in our packet? Oh, sorry, Josh. I didn't even know you were back there. I thought you retired.
When did we receive these documents?
That was March 30th.
I'm gonna need help with the calendar here. Was that a couple weeks ago then? Yeah. It may have to do with the incentive package is what I'm guessing, and yeah, I'm a little confused as to how this happened. Hector, could you jump in?
No, it wasn't done purposely. It was essentially an oversight. It came in while staff was attending a conference, but we will get those updated plans, and we do have the image here if you would like to see it. It's basically about a 350-foot stretch of Main Street that will be improved, but we can pull it up on the screen if you'd like to see it right now.
Yeah, sure. Let's take a look at it.
I was just saying, to be fair to staff in your packet, I don't even know if it would be easy to see that, in the small drawing. So I don't even know if you would have noticed it, but it was worth pointing out to you. Good luck.
see. Yeah. Someone earlier described this kind of as a kind of a pickaxe. So if you want to see, so right now, the improved portion of Main Street, the curbed section ends about, we'll say, well, here, as a reference point, this, what you see here is the spur along Main Street. So all of this portion from the spur up to the grade area is improved. So what the new plan shows that there's going to be about a 350-foot stretch of improved Main Street that will not go beyond the point of, and as a reference point here, here's the overpass for 470. So they're just looking at the piece right in front of essentially just Lot 1 and the remainder of Lot 2. So no improvements are proposed north of their northern boundary.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So the fire access will solely stay on Lot 1. Then, David, tell me if Hector, staff, someone could say, so it would still be on Lot 2 for the unimproved road improvements if they wanted to develop that lot and access from Main Street?
Well, I suppose if Lot 2, let's say hypothetically Lot 2 never happens, but Lot 1 eventually decides that they want it, well, Lot 1 would have to provide it. So whether it's Lot 1 or Lot 2, if and when a party in the future decides that they want full access onto Main Street, that cost would have to be borne by the developer at that time to improve it all the way to Colburn Road.
Of the developer of Lot 2? Could be completely different from the applicant that's here tonight.
It could be. It could be.
Right, and to emphasize what I was saying earlier, it could be Lot 1 wants to do that, and they pay for it. It could be Lot 2 wants to do that, they pay for it, or they could jointly agree to do it, and they pay for it jointly.
Okay. And then, David, my final question for you is, since we are looking at a land use change from PMIX to PI, if we added a motion into, or excuse me, an amendment into our motion of whatever way the commission wants to go, that the rezoning from PMIX to PI does not happen until after the applicant has full approval of the financing partnership they want with the city? So I think they're asking us to change the land use designation of this, which is our purview, but it hinges on them getting an agreement with the city for their financing mechanism.
So normally that issue is, the resolution of that issue is left up to the applicant. If they seek a rezoning and they achieve that, and then they're successful or not with their incentive application, the property's still rezoned. One thing that you could do, and I think this would address your concern, is recommend to the city council that they not make a final decision on the zoning until they make a final decision on the incentives. I'm not sure what the council would do with that recommendation, but I think you could make that recommendation, which is essentially a timing question.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Mr. Lovelace?
A little bit unrelated at this point, but now I want to understand the theory behind it. So if we were to make that recommendation, or if we were to do something else like say that if the development wasn't started within, a period of time, call it the 2-year period of time that we're accustomed to with PDPs, that the zoning would revert back to the original zoning, is that possible, or?
No, we can't have a situation where the zoning automatically reverts. The statute provides that to rezone property, you have to go through the public hearing process. So once the property is zoned to a new district, you'd have to hold a new set of public hearings to zone it back or to something else, whether it's back or to a different district.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? We'll Commissioner Tazinski, you have a question, or while we're still in
No,
public
I'm just
hearing?
saying, so I think I got the language, if you
Okay.
wanted to, if you were going to include that as part of the recommendation.
I will close the public hearing and open up for discussion. Anyone, Mr. Kitchens, any discussion?
Sure. I'm just happy that we have another great logistics facility coming to Lee's Summit. I think that this project has been vetted out pretty well. I think that as much as the future holds with logistics and things like that, it's a world that I actually sit in, and I've actually already had people interested in my realm of business and renting out facilities here in Lee's Summit. So while this is another logistics facility, I can tell you right off the bat that they're in demand. As a matter of fact, the past month I've gotten 2 requests through. So this is definitely something we need. I'm very happy to see it, and I'll be voting to move it forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rader?
I just want to join in with Commissioner Kitchens on that comment. I'm always excited to have business come to Lee Summit. So we're proud and happy that we did get this worked out, and that you're going to continue on to work to get here. So thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Lovelace, you good? Commissioner Trafton? Commissioner Jana Ford? Commissioner Benbrook? Commissioner Tazinski?
Again, thank you very much for working with the city staff. I know it was contentious. We had some great dialogue and some good debate, and I really appreciate it very much. Susan, great job on putting together your memo for the staff on going through the traffic. I think that really helped out. And David, thank you again, as usual. So I appreciate it. This is what we like to do, is we like to work with people coming into our city, but we want to make sure it's good for everybody. And so thank you very much for hanging in there and working with us.
Thank you. Any other comments or anything from the commission? Mr. Tazinski,
Sure.
you can lead us in the motion here.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to send, I guess it's approval to, or request approval. Recommend approval for for application, for continued application number PL 2022-394, rezoning from P-Mix and PI to PI and preliminary development plan, Summit 470 Logistics Center, 1451 North Main Street, Ryan Companies, U.S. Inc. applicant, and also to recommend a number 7 on, I guess, the conditions, a new condition number 7 that recommends that the change of zoning be completed at the same times as the vote or recommendations or whatever the process they need to add the incentives to this property.
Can we carry that in, or do we need to go on the first motion?
Good evening, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development Services. Just one recommendation on that, to make it more clear for the City Council as well. Perhaps condition number 7 may read that recommend approval, but second reading be held until after financial discussions with the city are complete, or finances are completed, so that it can proceed to first reading.
That sounds
But
great to
file
me.
this- okay.
And so do we need to redo the motion?
We can record it that way.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I have a motion to recommend approval of the application adding condition 7, that city council does not read second reading until once the financial agreement is complete with the city. So I have that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Mark Kitchens?
Yes.
Cindy Rader?
Yes.
Jake Lovelace?
Yes.
Donnie Funk?
Yes.
Terry Trafton?
Yes.
Tanya Jana Ford? Yes. Randy Benbrook?
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski?
Yes.
And the application has been recommended for approval. We will move on to our second item here on our agenda in public hearings, and that is continued application PL 2022-314, preliminary development plan, Arbor Walk, 3640 Southwest Arbor Ridge Road, Christie Development Associates LLC applicant. Anyone wishing to give testimony or speak on behalf of this application please stand and be sworn in at this time. If the applicant has a presentation for us, that'd be great. You can give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Sam Malinowski, SM Engineering, 5507 High Meadow Circle, Manhattan, Kansas. If I can find it. There it is. It's gonna be pretty short and sweet. Basically what we're doing is I've also got Garrett Fugit representing Christie Development and Jeff Laubach representing Casey's General Store. Basically, this is at the corner of Highway 150 and Arbor Ridge Drive. We're looking to seek your approval to put in a Casey's right there on the corner, and then back up behind here, a learning experience daycare center. And then over here, we have plugged in a Jiffy Lube. Right now, the Casey's is for sure, and the learning experience we're proceeding with final development plan once we get through city council. As part of this project too, we're also going to be widening Arbor Ridge Drive a little bit to provide a left turn lane into the site. And then we're also going to be seeking access on 150. We've been working with MoDOT on that and nailing down where that's at. Wrong way. It's just a grading. There's also, we're picking up storm sewer from the church's detention pond. We're going to route it down and, put it all, there's an existing ditch right now. We're going to bring that all, it's going to be routed in storm sewer pipe and routed underneath 150 highway. As a landscape plan on preliminary basis. Storm sewer wise, as it states in your report, the stormwater detention has already been taken care of. As part of the development, we're going to be adding water quality features to each development. We'll be handling their own thing to provide water quality. This is the learning experience up there in the north, and then this is Casey's. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. Staff have a presentation as well.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Shannon McGuire, Staff Planner. Please enter the record, Exhibit A, list of Exhibits 1 through 17.
1 through 17 noted and entered into the record.
All right. So the subject property is currently zoned PMIX. It's 3.96 acres. It's currently undeveloped, and it is located in the Arbor Walk mixed-use subdivision there at Arbor Ridge Drive and 150. North of the property is PMIX. It's currently the Holy Spirit Catholic Church. South of the property is Journey Church, and that's zoned ag. East is vacant, and it's zoned PMIX. West is also PMIX, and it is, again, the Holy Spirit Catholic Church. As the applicant stated, they are proposing or seeking approval for the PDP to construct a 4,500 square foot gas station convenience store, identified as Casey's, an 1,800 foot quick oil change center, and a 10,000 square foot daycare center. Currently, access to the daycare center will be through a shared access easement through the church's driveway. The access to the gas station and the oil change will share access on Arbor Ridge Drive as well as 150. The proposed elevations are consistent with the materials and designs of other buildings throughout the city and in the neighborhood. The building materials for the Learning Center include stucco, brick, and glass. As you can see here, the Casey's building elevations and materials include some bricks and stone as well as glasses. The Valvoline has ephes, brick, glass, and cast stone for their exterior materials. All these materials are consistent, like I said, with other materials throughout the city. The 2021 Ignite Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map does identify the subject site future recommended land use as commercial. The gas station, convenience store, oil change facility, as well as the daycare are all land uses in the existing P-mix that would be allowed by right. The subject property is located within the boundaries of the M150 corridor overlay, and in an effort to establish sustainable development within that corridor, the overlay district does encourage integration of water and energy conservation techniques in the site planning. To address these requirements, the developer has proposed to incorporate energy efficient materials in the design, as well as materials that are produced from renewable sources and zero-scape or water conserving landscape materials. So with that, there are two conditions on the approval that staff is recommending. Standard conditions that the development be in accordance with the submitted plans that they have submitted, as well as development shall be in accordance with the transportation impact analysis that was done by Brad Cooley. So for that, that concludes staff's presentation, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Shannon. We have any questions or comments from the public?
If you could, can you roll me back to the site plan, the Civil 3 that you guys have on your website?
Come forward and state your name and address for the record first.
My name is Larry Ante. I'm the Facilities Director for Holy Spirit Catholic Church. So a couple of things, and I'm looking at one thing that he stated that the access to the daycare would be off of our driveway, and that easement is not likely to happen. And I thought that they had changed that after we had spoken with them, because of looking at this, they, which is the one I pulled off your website, instead of, I came prepared, instead of having the access here, they've got it down here.
They can't see that, so you're gonna have to use the mouse to point it out.
Okay, there we go. This actually has the entrance to the daycare coming in off of here rather than off of our driveway. Because in the potential agreement that they sent us, we had several issues with it. And so that was one thing that I was a little bit surprised when he said that, because I thought that had been worked out and you guys were coming in off of coming in through here to get to the daycare. The other thing that concerns me, and I brought the plans from circa 2005, 2006 for our development when we put the church in, and it has got a potential right-in, right-out on 150 that splits the lot line. So with MoDOT and how wonderful they are to deal with access to their highways, I would propose moving this about 150 feet to the west, which gets it further from the intersection, which I believe a light's going in on the intersection anyhow. But if you look back at the plans, which I'm sure are in your archives for Holy Spirit Catholic Church, you will see that there's a preliminary right in, right out, 150 feet-ish to the west of where theirs is proposed, and that would service both properties in the event we would do some sort of expansion there, which was also preliminary in our plans. The other thing is, as I look, and again, it was on the plans here, I don't know that I can see it up here, but the plans that I pulled off of your website, which I commend, is fantastic. I've sat on the Jackson County Planning and Zoning Commission for over 20 years and have been the chairman for about 18 of it, and our staff is pretty good. Your website and the access to the information is outstanding. So, but anyhow, it's got a sidewalk that runs up our property, because obviously this portion is our property on the driveway. and it runs up right through all the trees, which I know most of them are ash tree, well, they're all ash trees in that area, and they're dying, but we're planning on replanting something else. So, and I'm not sure if that was just kind of an oversight that, I know the city likes sidewalks, but I didn't think you could make them put a sidewalk on our property, a sidewalk to nowhere, basically, because we would like to keep that tree line drive as well. So those are the comments that I've got. Main one being this access down here, the right in, right out, moving it to basically split the lot line. And then, like I said, I was surprised that the driveway was still up here off of our driveway. So those are my comments.
Thank you. We'll get to the answers to your questions. I guess my question for staff is, if this is the way this plan is drawn and it's their property and there's no access agreement,
So, okay, so
we,
at the time of review, staff was under the impression that the conversations were ongoing. If that ultimately is unfruitful, this access can get moved here. So it's kind of flipped to the south there. That is not a substantial change. So we could cover that on the FDP. So what is presented here is the applicant's, ultimate hope that they could to work out that agreement to get that access. But again, if that access does not come to fruition, it can be accommodated down here without re-triggering any new PDP approvals.
so would the parking, hold on, I have a seat. Would the parking stay the same? I guess I'm gonna, before I open up to go to questions to the commission, I just want to make sure if they don't get this access, the city is in agreement that they could bring the access from the other way. Would the parking, how would that affect the parking if, I don't know what the distance is there for that lot line and.
So the parking requirement for internal lot line is only 6 feet, so they can meet the setback requirements by just flipping that and accommodate. They are significantly overparked for their requirement on that daycare, mostly because of influxes of pickup and drop off. So they are overparked, so they can meet all parking requirements, even with the change in the layout.
You guys good with moving forward, just with the simple flipping the access? We would just be looking at this as the access is not coming that direction. Just one question. Go ahead.
How would that affect our fire response there? Would there be any trigger there, or because if we're flipping it, I'm seeing that the internal turning in there, and maybe Chief Eden is more knowledgeable about this, which I'm sure he is. Would that affect our fire response and emergency response to the facility itself?
I will let Chief Eden answer that.
Yeah, I hate to make him get up here. He's going to say no and walk back, but that's okay.
Do you understand? Show me what, if they move the driveway from here to here, can you still get in there?
Yeah, we can. Going off of what Shannon is explaining, we would be able to have access from the south end of the parking lot. It appears that the internal circulation would remain the same.
The internal circulation would remain the same on that then?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That answers my question. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Chief Eden.
You can come forward and just give us your name and address for the record.
Garrett Fugate with Christie Development, 17916 Manor Street, Overland Park, Kansas. So, as you can see, what we were just discussing, we did get this drawn up in case the church did not allow this easement, and so they'd come in here, and as mentioned, the park, it is overparked, and yeah, so.
Okay. Chairman? Yeah, hang on 1 second. So is this already, is this something that we can have submitted into the hearing?
Excuse me, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director. Staff has not received these plans yet officially. We have not reviewed them, so we're unprepared at this time to comment and provide any feedback and direction for for you all and whether or not what the code requirements are here and if this meets those code requirements. So if this is being asked to be submitted this evening as part of this application, we will need to have a recess and return. Otherwise, if you're prepared just to continue moving forward, as Shannon had explained previously, that when the FDP comes in, the access would just be flipped, we could do that as well.
I think, just a quick, simple question, and I seen Brad doing a sneak attack way down here. So does this affect any traffic
Yeah.
trip generation since we're all coming to one location versus there were multiple access points?
We would need to have traffic review and comment on those plans as well. So again, it may be that we just want to have a recess at this time to discuss actually both items, whether or not this to be replaced in the packet and for this to be reviewed by all staff and all staff reviewers.
You guys good with a quick little 5-minute recess and we can?
It may not be.
Chair, if I
It
may.
may, pardon me, we may not have everyone here with us this evening that we need to have, so I apologize. When I say recess, it is return to the next meeting,
Oh,
possibly,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
For continuance.
I'd rather with that.
go ahead, Commissioner Benbrook, did you have some?
I would also like to hear more about the right in, right out on 150. It sounds like you're shifting it, it says 150 feet when it was already agreed upon as a shared access between the two lots. Why is that moved?
It was never agreed upon. We've never had any discussion with the church to agree upon a
Well, it sounds
access.
like he's got plans here that show that it was agreed upon by MoDOT. So I'm curious why it's changing. It seems to me like it would better serve both lots if it stayed where it was at.
Well, it would definitely serve our lot much worse for retail access to the Casey's and would.
Personally, I don't
but-
think it would serve it worse. That's my opinion. I think a through street wrapping around it's gonna be a lot more accessible than a bunch of very curved, sharp entry drive lanes.
The current, on this actual drawing, it's not as sharp. That was for a way to inlet that we were going to avoid, but actually we moved it back. We've obviously played with this a few times. We'd never seen these plans, so I can't really speak to that, but the church has never mentioned it, and we've never seen those till right this second.
I guess my final thought is, and then I'll relinquish, it seems like it needs a little bit more work before we move forward. It seems like those things need to be considered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, I will say MoDOT, we've obviously talked with them in depth on this, and they've never brought up those plans either, so I'm not sure. I can't.
Commissioner Benbrook, I was just going to also add that when we do continue this and have full staff review and analysis of the new plans, we'll also take a look at any cross-access and also the changes in the comments brought up by the other gentleman this evening as well. Thank you.
Is there, if I understood the gentleman, he said plans and review, is there plans and review with the city for that access? No, okay.
No, so taking a quick look at the plans that he presented there, there is a note on there that said that is a future access tied to future improvements of 150. So
Okay.
those were future proposed for future projects.
Okay, so I think to make this easy, we just look for a motion to continue this. Do we have a date that you'd like it to go to?
I believe the next meeting is May.
We got one more in
16th.
April.
Yes.
I don't know if we're full, I don't know
We-
what we have
we-
and what Brad's a busy
Yeah,
man.
we do have one. I would prefer, it would be recommended if we could, I don't know if we all usually open or leave it open to return once staff review is complete. Or if we do, or if you prefer to have a date certain, then I would wait 2 meetings. Whatever the preference.
Our next meeting would be the 27th of April, or we would go to the 11th of May.
May 11th would be great. Thank you.
Sound right, Sarah? May 11th? Okay. So I would look for this, sorry, that was on me. Commissioner Benbrook, I would look for a motion to continue this application to a date certain of May 11th.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I move to recommend continuance of continued application number PL 2022-314 preliminary development plan, Arbor Walk, 3640 Southwest Arbor Road. Christie Development and Association LLC applicant to a date certain of May 11th, 2023.
I have a motion to continue the application to a date certain of May 11th. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Mark Kitchens,
Yes.
Cindy Rader,
Yes.
Jake Lovelace,
Yes.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trefton,
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford, Randy Benbrook,
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes.
And the application has been continued to a date certain of May 11th, 2023. We have a round table. Commissioner Trafton.
I just wanted to take a moment to say you guys are stuck with me for a few more years, me and Cinda. I really want to thank the mayor and the city council for a reappointment of Commissioner Radar and myself. So thank you, guys.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kitchens.
I guess my recommissioning you're not thankful for then, huh, Terry?
Sorry, I didn't see you on that. When did you get recommissioned?
I'm cuter than him.
No doubt.
I
Cinda, no
overlooked you.
doubt.
Sorry, Commissioner
That's
Kitchens.
okay.
I'm super excited about that.
That's okay. You're not the first one. It's not like I don't overlook things quite often. But I would like to add, the clean team has been doing a great job moving forward with the city, and we've got 4 cleanup dates to clean up the roadways here in Lee Summit. Starting this Saturday, we're helping sponsor that, and the Ministerial Alliance is sponsoring cleanups on 50 highway arterial roads, down on 150, Ransom Road, et cetera, starting on the 15th, the 22nd, the 29th, and the 6th of May. I would love as many individuals as possible to go ahead and sign up for that. We are helping out, the churches are helping us out quite immensely in that program, so we're very excited about it. One thing I will add about MoDOT, we give them a lot of flack in these meetings, but I had the opportunity to talk to MoDOT through this process, and they've been very helpful and quite frankly have promised to help us as a city by doing what they're supposed to do and cleaning up the center median. But they have a very short staff and very limited funds with a lot of big events happening throughout the year. So we're very excited that MoDOT is helping us out and is being part of our community instead of just another bureaucracy. So I'm very excited to have that. Any city staff, anybody on the commission, any organizations that would like to join in, very happy to have you log in and sign up on justserve.org. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tuzinski.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say a thank you to Julia Swanson. She's an engineer from my firm that is very interested in the city of Lee Summit. She lives here, and she was always wondering what we did at our planning commission. She does development services work, so she does the kind of work that we review. And so she wanted to see how City of Lee Summit works, and she spent her own time to be here and visit with us with nothing on the agenda. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. And thank you, David, for bringing forward your well-done description to help us through that. That was much appreciated. Anything else from the commission? Staff, anything? Josh, you're just retiring, staying out in the back now? Oh, we won't let you get away with that. We are adjourned.